Yes. After an oh-so-brief 2-day hiatus, we are back with the playoffs of IEM Katowice. 6 teams have entered into the gauntlet. Only one will rise at the end with one of the most prestigious trophies in Counter-Strike. Today, we had our quarterfinal matchups. We had Virtus.pro taking on Spirit. We had the Mongolz taking on Eternal Fire. There's really not that much to talk about when it comes to the first game, so we'll focus a lot of our time on the second, so let's not waste any more time. Before we get started, make sure you guys take a second, leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm, so thank you for doing it. And of course, I would like to thank today's sponsor. That's right, this video is sponsored by Skin Club. They're one of the most popular case opening sites in the scene with over 100 custom cases backed by their provably fair system. You can open cases individually or wager your winnings against other users in case battles, either with players around the world or privately with bots if you want to avoid being smurfed outside of Premiere as well. But wait, there's more. Skin Club runs monthly events with free rewards to earn, free daily cases, and if you don't like what you earned, you can always go for a cheeky little upgrade to get something you do. If you want to play on Skin Club, you can do so at the top link in the description down below and get a 7% deposit bonus when you top off your account with credit card, crypto, or the 5,000 P50 sand dunes in your inventory. Please gamble responsibly and only do so if you are over 18 and live in a country or jurisdiction that doesn't restrict gambling. Gambling can be an addiction, and you should never gamble for the purposes of making profit, only wager what you are comfortable losing. If you or a loved one are suffering from gambling addiction in the US or Canada, you can reach out to 1-800-GAMBLER toll-free to get help. I want you to be safe and healthy always, so seek help if you need it. And thank you to Skin Club for sponsoring this video. Okay, so normally I do the games in chronological order because that usually makes the most sense to me, but Spirit vs. Virtus.pro was so short, there was so little for me to talk about, we're going to do it first so we can focus the back half of this video on the other series. Now, the only reason this series was not ultimately more interesting than it could have been is of course because Flammus could not participate. Had this been a full-strength Virtus.pro lineup, I do think they could have made Spirit sweat a little bit. As I've covered in multiple recent videos, Spirit are not impregnable. They are by far the best team in the world, but you can get them on the back foot and take a map off them. Teams have shown that routinely. And while I'm certainly still very skeptical of Electronic as a leader, I'm more than willing to admit, despite my bias against him and Virtus.pro as a team, that on paper, the firepower is really tantalizing, and they've shown so far through their run at Katowice that they could press some of the very best teams in the world. I think as this team continues to develop, they will be one of the more interesting teams to watch in World Counter-Strike. I'm very curious to see what Electronic can do with all of this young, amazing talent. We've seen what Fame and Flick can do throughout most of last year. Icy and Flammus are both rookies that have shown an extreme amount of promise, and if Electronic can rein himself in, which from all the interviews so far he appears to have done, then yeah, this could be another great Russian lineup. However, none of that is going to stop you from getting donked by Spirit today with Mir as a stand-in. And hey, full credit to Mir, by the way, he wasn't even awful. He actually put in some work on Ancient. He was top fragging at the end of that game. So in terms of what they could have had to work with, it wasn't that bad. But they got destroyed on Train 13 too. They had some spotty moments on Ancient that were nice. But other than that, there was no way they were going to beat Spirit with a stand-in. Just is what it is. But it does set up tomorrow an unreal grudge match between Spirit and Na'Vi, the team of the year of 2024, versus the undoubtable best player in the world and the team that destroyed Counter-Strike in his last 2 months of last season. Like, this matchup is awesome. Keep in mind that Na'Vi are the only team going back to Furia in the first round of the fucking major to take a series off of Spirit, and that was a best of 1. They are the only team to beat Spirit in a best of 3. This is going to be so exciting tomorrow. Dude, that's going to be awesome. I cannot wait for that. But for right now, we need to move on and talk about Eternal Fire versus the Mongolz. So this was certainly an exciting match to watch play out. I think these are both teams that are elevating their games in a massive way through the end of last year into the start of this. This is also the first tournament that the Mongolz are appearing at, and we also have to add the caveat at the top. I didn't actually know this. I thought the Mongolz had missed a blast because they'd had like a team sickness problem. No, it was because Senzu injured his arm during the off-season. So Senzu is coming back off of injury, which could be a massive wrinkle for this team. But so far, we are still seeing the Mongolz that ended last year, despite Senzu's admitted drop in production. They came out and they beat Eternal Fire straight up in 2 games, which other than Spirit and bizarrely Virtus.pro has not happened yet this year. That's remarkable. And they beat them on Anubis and Mirage arguably Eternal Fire's 2 best maps. Certainly they are the best Anubis team in the world, as we've covered extensively. So what exactly happened that got us here? Well, let's take it one at a time. On Anubis, the Mongols won 13-7 after an incredible 8-4 T-side. Now, going into this, I saw that T-side play out, and I was like, alright, fair enough, Mongols drop out to a quick start, that totally makes sense. However, more than once, we have seen hot stars on Anubis on the first half on the T side be quickly vanquished by an unfortunate but predictable outcome in the second, as this map is so aggressively T-sided. With Eternal Fire being the best T side in the world, I thought for sure this would be a close game if nothing else, but Eternal Fire would make their comeback in the second. They did not. Outside of winning the pistol round and the second round thereafter, the Mongols managed to hold them to just one more gun round win before closing out the match. That is incredible in ways that are very hard to describe. So how did that happen? Well, Yada and Wakadia had a disaster game. Zontaros was kept on a leash on the second half specifically, and Woxic could not pull off any CT side heroics on the A side. Meanwhile, you had 9-10 and Blitz putting on an absolute show, both combining for nearly 20 apiece and leading their team to victory. Now, first things first, I have to give Blitz so much credit here for his play recently. I mean, we talk a lot about this kind of like this myth of the fragging IGL, but here's Blitz, much like Shuhei was doing towards the beginning of last year, just fragging out of control, being one of the better players on his team, and also calling elite strats. They're like a hive mind. The way that the Mongols will just push as a unit, the coordination in their takes is top tier, and they will do anything. They don't care. It doesn't matter who is on this team. They will self-sacrifice, take the peek through smoke, flashes, mollies, nades, whatever. They will go to where they need to go to break open space for their fellow teammates, and that is awesome. And then, dude, 9-10. I have talked about him before. He looks like he is turning the corner into being one of the very best oppers in the world, definitely top 10, and I'm just continually shocked that this dude was just chilling, playing Dota, and just did not play Counter-Strike before like 2021, and now he's one of the very best in the world. And I've been playing Counter-Strike for close to over a decade, and I am dog shit. So, you know, just keep that in mind. I'm sure that makes you guys feel good too. Anyways, get into some structural Counter-Strike for a moment. I have noticed something, and I think I will expand on this after Katowice in a proper video because I think it's really interesting. I think the next step in the evolution of CT side Counter-Strike is going to be shuffling the pieces way more than any top team currently does. And I'm going to give you a contrasting example. One thing we have talked about, even in its own dedicated video, is how on Dust 2, Spirit have made their CT side nigh unfightable because of the fact that Donk plays different spots damn near every round. When I watched this VOD back for Eternal Fire, and I think this is pretty standard across all their games, they all play the same set positions more or less every round. It's going to be Wakadia and Woxic towards A, Major's going to be kind of the floater towards mid, Zontaras and Jada are going to play towards B, Zontaras will play down towards E box or come back and rotate and be kind of the B mid temple player depending on how things are moving, but other than that, they will relatively play those same spots every single round. And with Wakadia and Woxic not having the greatest game to start off, what was happening is that over and over, the Mongols were abusing mid to A splits, trying to prey on the weaker players, and force Zontaras to be in a position where he must rotate into one of the most difficult retakes in the game. They were taking the agency away from Zontaras to control the game, as he is the best player in the server. So, had Eternal Fire been more adaptable and moved Zontaras around the map a la Donk, I think they could have done better to respond to what the Mongols were doing. I would have liked to see more proactivity, more pushes into space around B or around mid, and more importantly, see Wakadia, Jada, and Zontaras switch up their positions between the three of them more often throughout a half. They're already an elite T side, but I think they got exposed a little bit here when not everybody was playing to their maximum level. There's also another element, something we're going to talk about more in a minute here on Mirage, and that's that Eternal Fire seem to be dropping off in big playoff games. They are very, very good right now throughout the majority of the tournaments, but including Blast, we now have back-to-back tournaments where Zontaras was like a clear top 3 player on the fucking planet, all the way until the big playoff games where he definitely stepped back in his production. I try my best to not parrot the points of other pundits, but I think it was Maui or Thorin who brought it up on a recent Snake and Banter. But yeah, we're kind of getting to the point where Eternal Fire might be taking up a Mao's position from last year, where they might just be big stage choking, and I really don't want to see that because this team is such an elite unit when they play well. Getting into the specifics on Mirage, I think this was simply a fragging diff between the two teams. Blitz ends this triple overtime game with 29 kills and 18 deaths as the in-game leader. Compare that to Major, who had only 18 kills and 27 deaths. The difference in fragging between the two teams throughout the duration of this game was a total of almost 20 kills. Comparably, man for man, star for star, every other player in the server pulled their weight. The differences between Woxic and 910, or Zontares and Techno as the top riflers and oppers in terms of fragging production are pretty surmountable. Wicadia and Jada were also great. The only player in the server who failed to reach at least 20 kills was Major. So the spread of fragging for the Mongolz was simply superior. There were no other major discrepancies really. Both teams had an equal amount of first kills at 20 apiece, and both teams only won one clutch round. The rest of it just came down to team play. Once again, the Mongolz jumped out to an 8-4 first half lead, going on a 5-0 run to start the game before Eternal Fire could get on the board. And then we got into the second half. Zontares continues to remind us why he's one of the very best riflers in the world and helped power Eternal Fire from a 10-4 deficit all the way to overtime. And again, considering the difference in experience between these two teams, Mongolz being very young compared to the wealth of tier 1 experience that Eternal Fire have, you would expect that Eternal Fire could close this out. But again, we get into the overtime. Eternal Fire, after winning so many T rounds in a row, they only won 3 overtime rounds on the T side, and that's just not good enough. And consider this, that again, Senzu is just coming off of injury. It's very safe to assume that he's not performing at his optimal levels. So yeah, I don't really have much more to say. I think the Mongolz have a huge opportunity tomorrow to make a grand finals. I think they are more than good enough to take Vitality to task considering their own history of underperforming in big playoff games, so we'll just have to wait and see. Regardless, you guys know that I'll be right here some amount of time after the games are over, giving you a recap, talking all about it. So if you like these videos, make sure you take a second, leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because it helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm, so thank you for doing it. Thank you again to Skin Club for sponsoring this video. If you click the top link in the description, you get a 7% deposit bonus the next time you fill up. Thank you to Skin Club. And thank you to our channel members, Justin, Jesse, Furley, Milan Berta, Bubblesj, Dr. Cocktor, Patatas Kaftesi, PTR, B1 Games, Cody Foxworthy, and Justin Vegt. If you want to support me directly, you can do so for $5 a month. Get your name at the end of videos just like this, as well as a custom role in our community Discord. Thank you to our channel members. Also follow me on twitch.tv/LionHeartZ2. I stream Sunday through Friday at 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Come say hi. Spirit are going to be Nabi.